Okay, welcome back. We're doing Overwatch League predictions. Part number 2 of week number 1. First 2 days of Overwatch League, I think they went well. I watched every match the first day. I didn't really get to watch much the second day because I was hanging out with some friends. We were doing a session of D&D. It was a good time. Anyway, so my predictions wise, I went 5-1 first 2 days. Good. It was a good day. I will definitely take that. Or good 2 days. The only one got wrong was the Fusion beat the Outlaws, and I predicted vice versa. So other than that, I was right. There were some really close games, like the Dynasty Fuel games, really close. The Uprising put up a pretty good fight against Excelsior, even though Excelsior didn't end up winning. So yeah, both of the LA teams won 4-0. So without further ado, record is 5-1. Maybe in the future I'll try to get a. I should be able to. It's like a little bit of editing just to put up the record for the week and for overall. I'll probably do that in the future. But anyway, I'm doing this real quick because the matches start in 3 hours. Yep, right about 3 hours. So I'm cutting a little close. I think in the future I'll probably record these or whatever on Thursday night and then post them the next day. But anyway, first match. We got the Dallas Fuel versus the LA Valiant. I think this is probably the best matchup of the rest of the 2 days. I think this one's going to be really good. So the Fuel are 0-1. Recap: they lost to the Dynasty, and the Valiant are 1-0. They 4-0 the Shock. But like we said before, the Fuel lost to the best team, so there's not much shame in their performance. I was really impressed with the Fuel. They came at them hard. They were up 1-0. They were almost up 2-0 on the Dynasty. So I was impressed by their guts and their. You could tell they wanted it. I'll just say that much. But anyway, who's gonna win this matchup? Well, the maps that they're gonna be on are Junkertown, Horizon Lunar Colony, Ilios, and Numbani. So this one, I think this one, it's a tough one. I'll just say that much. Both teams played on the first day, so they should be pretty well rested. Valiant had an easier go of it. They beat the Shock pretty easily, whereas the Fuel were locked in a battle the whole time. Game 1, I like the Valiant because the Fuel, they did win. They did beat the Dynasty on this map. That's the only map they beat them on. But the Dynasty looked pretty. That's their worst map in the game. For the Dynasty, Junkertown is their worst map, without doubt. It's not even a question. That's their worst map in the game. So I think the Valiant will take that one. Then for game 2, I like the Fuel on the 2 CP maps. I think they'll pull that one out. The Valiant have looked strong in those two though, so I think both of those games will be close, but it'll be 1-1. Then on Ilios, I think the Valiant will take that as well. They'll go up 2-1. I think the Fuel, they might be a little low on energy. They expended a lot of energy in their match against the Dynasty, and you say, oh, it's just a video game. They're not actually tired, but there's some mental fatigue there. I could see that maybe playing a factor at some point. There's a loud ass phone. Anyway, game 3, Valiant. That one will probably be pretty close. Like I said, they're on Ilios. Probably Valiant winning that one 2-1, I would say. And then Numbani, I like the Fuel on Numbani. They tied the Dynasty on this map, and they've always been pretty good on this map. Their first point defense was pretty bad. They tried the Torbjorn. They tried Taimu on Torbjorn for first point defense, and it didn't really work out. They got rolled over at the first fight. So I don't know if they'll switch that strategy up a little bit, if they'll put somebody else on and have other heroes supporting them to see if that works better. But we'll see. I think Dallas pulls that one out though. They go 2-2, and then I think I can't see the Fuel starting 0-2. So I say that they're gonna win the fifth game and take it 3-2. I could easily see this one going either way though. The Valiant have been very impressive. They incorporated agilities into their lineup pretty well. Like it was pretty flawless the transition in the first match. So I mean, the combination of him and Soon, they got Kareev on Mercy, he's an amazing Mercy. You got Unko atop Zenyatta. So they two amazing teams. I think they'll both definitely be playoff teams. No way either of these teams should miss the playoffs. But I got the Fuel edging them 3-2. So moving on to game number 2. This one is a matchup of 0-1 teams. It is the Mayhem against the Uprising. These two. So they both lost 3-1 their first matches. I predicted they were both going to get 4-0'd, but they did better than I thought. They put up pretty decent fights against the Excelsior and the Spitfire. But in this one, they have their map set is a bit different. They have Dorado, then Temple of Anubis, then Oasis, and then Eichenwald. So this one is, I don't know. I've gone back and forth with this one. I think this is another game that could go either way. I got the Mayhem overall. I think the Mayhem will take point 1 and 2. And then the Uprising will win game 3. And then I think it's going to be really close, but the Mayhem will edge it in game 4. And they'll take it 3-1. And this might be a little bit of an upset. Like I said, a lot of people considered Mayhem like pretty much the worst team coming in. And they have the least flexibility and whatnot. But I think that they've spent more time together than Boston. And Boston's going to have times when they look pretty dominant over the Mayhem. But overall, I think there's going to be points when like they have breakdowns in communication. They have a couple pushes in a row like that don't really work out very well, or like they don't use their ult economy very well. So I think that the Mayhem are going to pull this one out 3-1. Again, this one could go either way though. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes another way. I could easily see it going 2-2, and then I like Boston a lot more than the Mayhem on capture point maps, like on your Elios and your Oasis and your Lijiang Tower, which I'm pretty sure it's always Lijiang Tower for tiebreaker, if I remember correctly. I could be dead wrong there. Actually, I'm not sure. And then the third game of today is the San Francisco Shock against the Shanghai Dragons. So both of these teams are also 0-1. They both got 4-0'd. But I think the Shock win this one pretty easily. I wasn't impressed with the Dragons at all in the preseason, and I was even less impressed in their game against the Gladiators. The Gladiators it was too easy. Like it wasn't even. Most of the maps weren't even like close. It was pretty brutal. It was like one of those comp games that you're in, and like one of the teams just destroys the other one. It was that for 4 matches in a row. So I think the Shock are gonna win this one pretty easily. They didn't. I don't know if I just like heard it wrong, or if there's like some other rules, or if they're just not comfortable with them yet. But Super and Sinatra didn't play at all. The Shock kept their same lineup all 4 games, which was very surprising to me. They didn't put in IDDQD, who's a very talented hit scan player. So I was surprised that he didn't play at all. They kept the same lineup the whole time. So it'll be the Shock are a really interesting team to me, because their talent level is up there with everyone else, but they have a lot of strong personalities. So I think that there could definitely be some synergy and chemistry problems with that team. At times, at least. So, that all being said, I got the Shock 3-1. I think the Dragons, they'll find a way to win a map. But other than that, it's a pretty easy 3-1 for the Shock. And moving on to Saturday. The first match, the London Spitfire against the Philadelphia Fusion. Both teams that won their games. This one is going to be interesting. The Fusion, like I said before, they didn't play at all in the preseason. They came out, they played the Outlaws, a good team, and beat them 3-2. I saw some of it, but not much. Um, I watched like a little bit of highlights earlier today, um, but the Fusion looked really good. I was really impressed by them. Um, so that being said, I don't think they're going to beat the Spitfire. I think that the Fusion win the first point because again it's Junkertown and the Spitfire looked pretty bad on that in the preseason, and I don't know if they've come up with a good fix. I guess we'll find out. um, we'll find out if they have come up with a better strategy for that map. But I think the Fusion will take the first one. Then the Spitfire will come out pretty strong and take the second map. Then on Ilios, I like the Spitfire for game 3 because just talent-wise, when it goes to the King of the Hill maps, I usually go with the more talented team. 'Cause I feel like those maps have the most opportunities for like an individual to like shine and like have like a little carry moment or just like have a really good play. So I think the Spitfire get more plays like that than the Fusion, even though the Fusion still have some pretty great players. I mean, when you talk about Shadowburn, like I said in the video on Wednesday, you can't count a team out when they have Shadowburn. But I think that the Spitfire do take the last 3 maps and win this one 3-1. It will be close though. The Fusion will definitely push them, I think. But in the end, the Spitfire are just more well-rounded. They have talent up and down the roster. They have a ton of people that they can sub to, and I think that that's going to make the difference. So the second match tomorrow features the Outlaws, who I was just talking about. They're playing the Excelsior, and I really got a feel for the Outlaws here. They, between the preseason and the one game that they've played, or the one match that they've played, they're 0-3. And they've played against really good teams. Like, they played against the Dynasty, they played against the Fuel, and they played against the Fusion, who are all 3 very good teams. Dynasty and Fuel will definitely be in the playoffs. The Fusion, I think the Fusion will be in contention for the playoffs. They might not make it, but I think they'll be in the conversation towards the end of the season. So I feel for them because they're a good team, but they haven't gotten that win yet, and I don't think they get this win today, or sorry, tomorrow. I don't think they get the first win of the season. I got the Excelsior. The Excelsior are pretty impressive. I have them as like the 4th or 5th best team. They're real close to the Valiant. Pine, they're one of their DPS players. I talked about him on Wednesday, and I saw some highlights of his from yesterday. They're playing the Uprising, and he's incredible. There's not that much you can say about him. Mono and some of those other guys, Mono their main tank, and a lot of the Excelsior guys, like I said, Sabioli, a top tier Tracer player. I think that they're starting to really gel, and I think that they're going to be a very scary team moving forward. So I think that they take Excelsior 3-1 over the Outlaws. And yeah, Outlaws players and fans, I feel for you guys. You're going to get those wins soon. I think they're going to be in the playoff conversation too. They're going to be one of those teams that could not make it, but they're also going to be like right there. So, and like the Outlaws could win this, but I think the Excelsior are going to be too much for them to handle. Playing another really good team in a row. And then we have the last game, which features my team, the LA Gladiators, versus the Dynasty. And, man, I would love to pick the Gladiators, but I can't. I'm sorry. There's no way. The Dynasty are going to win this. I really like what I've seen from the Gladiators so far in the preseason and their first matchup. But, I mean, playing the Dragons and playing the Dynasty, it's a whole different animal. I think the Gladiators do take a map, though. The first game is on Junkertown, and like I said, I believe this is the Dynasty's worst map in the entire game. I think the Gladiators will win this one. They played really well on it in the preseason. They beat the Spitfire on it pretty convincingly. So I think they take it. But after that, I think it's all Dynasty. Game 2, I think it could go either way. I think Gladiators will take both, but I think that the Dynasty will take both with more time than the 2 capture point. system. I think the Dynasty end up just bleeding that one out and winning probably like 4-3 will probably be the score there, I assume. And then game 3 on Ilios, I think this one's going to be the biggest blowout. I think Dynasty wins 2-0 easily. The Gladiators aren't great at King of the Hill, at least not yet. I don't think they've really found their lineup that really meshes well on those kind of maps. And since the Dynasty just has so much talent on their roster now, like that, I mentioned this in the previous video how King of the Hill was generally a weak point for the Dynasty back when they were Lunatic High, their old team. But that was because they have Jaehong, they have Toby, two of the best supports in the world. They have Zumba and Miro, two of the best tanks in the world. But their DPS always left something to be desired. That was always their weak point. But now that they have Fleta and Munchkin, he'll get swapped out sometimes like Bunny and like a couple others. But those two, oh, I can't say enough good things about them. Especially Fleta. I mean, he's just incredible on so many heroes. Pharah, he'll destroy you. Genji, he'll absolutely murder you. He's an incredible Widow. He can do it all damage-wise. His versatility and he just excels as all of them. Like, it's not that he can do all of them. Like, he can perform every role. No, he performs every role and goes way beyond expectations. So I think that they're just too scary of a team. We'll see how the season develops, but as of now, I just don't see anyone actually like challenging them. The Fuel played them very well the other day, but I think at the end of the day, that small gap is always going to be there, and that's what defines it. Between the Dynasty and the Spitfire, the Fuel, like the Excelsior, maybe the Valiant will get in there too towards the end, but I think until something that I see changes, I think the Dynasty always have just that little bit that always will put them over the top in like in a close match or like a really or like a championship game like type thing, or like in the playoffs. I think they have that just distinguishes them from the others, and they're really starting to mesh with each other. Like the DPS players who are newer to the team are starting to really get comfortable, it seems, and that is very scary for the rest of the Overwatch League. So Dynasty wins that one 3-1. Sorry, Gladiators, I love you guys, but I don't see us winning this one. So there's week 1 part 2. I kept wanting to say week 2, but it's not week 2. It's still the first one. So to recap, the winners, I got the Fuel over the Valiant. I got the Mayhem over the Uprising. Got the... Oh shoot, who's playing the Dragons? That's right, the Shock over the Dragons. Got the Dynasty over the Gladiators. Got the Spitfire over the Fusion. And then I have the Excelsior beating the Outlaws. So, thank you for tuning in. Sorry about the phone in between. I always forget to disconnect the phone in this office because it's really loud when I'm like recording or streaming something. So yeah, well, I guess we'll see. I'll tally up how many I got right, how many I got wrong after these, and then I'll see where I'm at heading into week 2. I hope you enjoyed the videos. If you let me know if you want them to be like this kind of length, or if you want them to be shorter. If you want me to like take out like the maps that they're on, if you don't want to like hear about that, if you just kind of want to see like, oh, what do you think the final scores will be, and like talk about like players to watch or something like that, I can do something more along those lines. I'm open to whatever. I've had a lot of fun doing these few, and I will definitely try to continue to do them in the future. So there's gonna be a lot of good games this week. God damn it, not again. I don't even know why we still have a landline.